Shilatankanakalaye. Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha. Yato yato yami tato Narsimha. Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha. Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha. Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapadye. Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapadye. Tavakara Kamalavari Nakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranya Kashipu Kanubringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupam Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Keshavadrita Keshavadrita Narahari Rupam Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Narsimha Dev. Jaya Narsimha Dev. Narsimha Dev. Jaya Narsimha Dev. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai.
Hare Krishna everyone, and welcome to this evening's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Welcome to all our Mayapur TV viewers and our ISKCON Sydney YouTube. This is live streaming from home. by all the Sydney devotees. So this evening I will be speaking. We had a choice. We could either speak from the title or a Srimad Bhagavatam directly, or we could choose a personality. So from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I've decided that I will speak about a personality, make it more interesting. And the personality I've chosen, I do not have extensive knowledge because he is such a great personality. And he's next to Lord Krishna. So whatever information I have from the Srimad Bhagavatam, I will endeavor to talk about him. And I guess I will sing the Jai Radha Madhav, and I will let you contemplate on who the personality is. I'll give you a few clues. He wears the crescent moon on his hair, and he wears snakes around his body, and his hands and his legs are adorned with snakes, and his body is covered with the skin of a tiger, and his body is smeared with ash from the cremation ground. So I'm going to be speaking about that personality. You can tell me who it is. I'm sure you would have guessed by now who it is. So we will speak on Jai Radha Madhav. We'll sing Jai Radha Madhav, and then I will try to speak about this particular character. In the last class, I had spoken about Bhishma Dev. He was a Mahajan, one of the 12 Mahajans of Lord Krishna, and the personality we will be talking about is also a great Vaishnava and a Mahajan. So without further ado, I will sing the Jai Radha Madhav for you all. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivacharya Asutal Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Chandravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधारा शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, नवदीप धाम की जय, श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय, यमुना माई की जय, श्रीमती तुलसी देवी की जय, सामवेद भक्तवृंद की जय, निताई गौर प्रेमानंदी Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Gurudev Ki Jai. So, give me 1 second. I will put away my mridanga and I'll be right back. Hare Krishna. Okay, so put this aside and we're in business. So by now you might have guessed who is the personality that we are going to be discussing tonight. It's going to be someone, I said, who wears the crescent moon on his forehead, so like this, and he wears snakes around his arms and his neck, and he wears tiger skin, and he has ash around his body. So you know who we are going to be discussing. It's none other than Lord Shiva, of course. So Lord Shiva, I had spoken about him a little bit, but I'm going to be reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam because we are reading from there. And so I will read a little bit of pastime, Lord Shiva's pastime and his qualities. He's always interesting to know. I mean, he's Lord Shiva, so he's an unusual personality, and yet we all know him and we love him very much. So, Lord Shiva is the incarnation of a specific function. Lord Krishna, when he comes, he never touches the material energy. So Lord Krishna is always separate from material energy. He's always in a spiritual platform, and he's always with spiritual energy. And he comes with his associates from Krishna Loka, Goloka, Vrindavan. They all take birth, and his associates are directly from the spiritual world. They are not. None of his associates are material in nature. Even the demons who he fights with, they are his devotees from the spiritual world, taken birth as a demon. So Lord Krishna never touches the material energy. He is above material energy. But someone has to perform these activities where they have to be involved with the material energy. And that's where Lord Shiva comes in. He is involved with the material energy. So he is what we call Guna avatar, and one of the 6 types of avatar. So Guna avatar means that let's see what's in is the one is the meaning is the mode of nature is it's actually described in the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Lord Shiva is where Lord Vishnu, Guna Avatar means where Lord Vishnu maintains and creates energies, he engineers. And Lord Brahma is the one who creates, Lord Vishnu maintains, Lord Brahma who creates and engineers this world, and Lord Shiva is one who annihilates or destroys. So the meaning of Lord Shiva is auspiciousness, auspicious. So he is actually really merciful, and he cannot be. He's actually in the mode of ignorance. Actually, no. We'll read a little bit later, and we'll be able to describe a little bit more directly from the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm just reading from some of my notes I've written, so if you can bear with me. So Lord Shiva is never touched by the mode of ignorance, even though he is the deity of the mode of ignorance. But he has to do this service for Lord Krishna, whereby he is seemingly under the mode of ignorance. He's not really touched by it, but he appears to be in the mode of ignorance. And his followers, who are his followers? Lord Shiva, his followers are mostly ghosts, which we call bhutas. And one of his names is Bhutnath, actually, Lord Shiva's name. And witches or hobgoblins, bhut pishachas, they actually are more in the mode of darkness and ignorance, and they are his followers. And apart from the ghosts and the prachetas and all those goblins, hobgoblins and witches, those who practice witchcraft and dark arts, apart from them, there are humans also who worship Lord Shiva. They are mainly ones who want material desires, and they want their material desires to be fulfilled. So whoever wants his material desires to be fulfilled, they usually approach Lord Shiva. And actually, we approach Lord Krishna too for our material desires, but we can actually understand from that not normally will Lord Krishna satisfy our material desires. The reason being, obviously, is because he wants us to become spiritualized and therefore have spiritual desires. And the reason for that is because we need to go, he's calling us into the spiritual world. So with Lord Krishna, we have to be, more spiritual. And however, with Lord Shiva, we can ask for anything, any boon. So you'll find that Lord Shiva's devotees, people like Ravan and Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksh, these people, they're demons. They're his devotees. So let's see, where was I? He's known as Ashutosh. Lord Shiva Ashutosh means that he is easily pleased. So whatever austerities we do for Lord Shiva, he will become pleased very easily. Actually, he is pleased just by some water and some bell leaves. So if you really want to please Lord Shiva, you do that. But he is most pleased. He's even more pleased is when we offer him Lord Krishna's prasadam, because he is a Vaishnav. He's a Maha Vaishnav. So he loves Lord Krishna's prasadam. So I keep a little like a shivling, I guess, which I keep on my altar personally. It's Lord Shiva, and what I do is whenever I offer my Lord Shamsundar behind me, any offerings I make, and then it turns into prasad, I offer that to Lord Shiva, who's also in my altar. So it is my attempt to please him, because I know that actually my spiritual master had said that Lord Shiva is pleased with Lord Krishna's prasad. So I'm attempting to please Lord Krishna, Lord Shiva, by offering him prasad. But as devotees, as Vaishnavas, instead of asking him for material desires to be fulfilled, we can actually ask him for this boon to be a Vaishnav. Because who else will be able to teach us how to be a Vaishnav other than a Maha Vaishnav like him? So you get this boon and this blessing on how to become a devotee of Lord Krishna. So you get special instructions or special benedictions and special privileges whereby you can become a better devotee of Lord Krishna. So apart from giving Lord Shiva prasadam, we can always pray to him for those spiritual benedictions where we can become a devotee of Lord Krishna. So continuing from there, by offering a little bit of Ganga water to the shivling and also bell leaves, Lord Shiva is quickly pleased. And whatever boon or desire one may have in his heart, Lord Shiva will fulfill. So tatastu. So I guess for me personally, I had because obviously we are from Fiji, and there are a lot of Lord Shiva devotees there. And we recite a lot of Lord Shiva mantras, Om Namah Shivaya, Namo Namaha, but also the Mrityunjaya mantra. So I had recited that, and I had grown up as Lord Shiva's devotee, because my parents were Lord Shiva devotees. My father was. So with that, I believe because I did that, I ended up becoming Lord Krishna's devotee, because that's the like you start off with some religion, and then you gradually progress to Lord Krishna, or become a Vaishnava. So it was a learning curve for me, progress. I believe that's why I'm attempting to be Lord Krishna's devotee today, and I'm here before you to read the Srimad Bhagavatam, or talk a little bit about him in his so that we can understand whenever we approach Lord Shiva, what kind of boons we can ask. Even demons who create havoc or dangers to other living beings, but they're prachetas who are given boon to worship Lord Krishna. So actually, there is a boon that actually Lord Shiva asked Lord Krishna in the first chapter of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. He explained in the first chapter of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it's explaining how Lord Shiva wanted to be worshipped more than Lord Vishnu. He asked for that benediction. And the reason why he asked for this benediction from Lord Krishna was that he wanted to be, he is full of compassion, and he wanted these worshippers to get this benediction from him, that therefore they can worship Lord Krishna and advance spiritually. So he asked this boon where he could do more followers and more worshippers, so that he could give them this benediction that they can progress for their own spiritual advancement. Because there are those who are hankering to be worshippers of Lord Vishnu, they worship devotees of Lord Vishnu, then they get the favor to worship Lord Vishnu, that even demons, they get the opportunity to worship Lord Krishna. So it is, as it is explained here, it is not a benediction, but boons and things Lord Shiva gives to demons, so that they can make spiritual advancement. And that is the advantage of worshipping Lord Shiva, even with material desires. So so many worship demigods and they receive what they want, but they continue to want more and more. And in this way, they follow the Vedas more and more, and they get elevated more and more. So when Lord Shiva is actually, he's known as Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, which means just as milk can be transformed, how a yogurt cannot be transferred back to milk, Lord Shiva is like this. Lord Shiva is a Mahavaishnav. He is always glorifying the name and the activities of Lord Krishna and Lord Vishnu. And he is actually a very ardent, very strong devotee of Adi Sankarshan, which is none other than Lord Balaram. So the reason why he wears these snakes around his body is actually these snakes are expansions of Lord Balaram, of Adi Sankarshan. That's why he wears those snakes. So if you want to know why Lord Shiva wears those snakes, it reminds him of his worshipable God. Lord Shiva worships Sankarshan, who is Lord Balaram. And Sankarshan has got all these hoods, where all these universes, they rest on his hoods. And towards annihilation, Lord Sankarshan, who's the snake, with so many hoods, he gets slightly agitated and he gets angry. And so from his brows, between his brows, Rudra is produced, 11 Rudras. And these are all Lord Shiva. The empowerment of Lord Shiva comes from Sankarshan for the annihilation. So Lord Shiva is forever singing the glories of Adi Sankarshan, which is Ananta Shesha or Lord Balaram. So he's always in meditation and he's chanting. So he appeared also as Shankaracharya. He came to destroy the philosophy of Buddha for those who misused the Vedas because they were eating meat. So you will see that there's Shankaracharya's philosophies. He actually came to destroy the philosophy of Vedas. And those who need to follow certain instruction in the Vedas, because they had started killing animals. So Buddha came to stop this following Veda. And also, so did Adi Sankarshan. Now, just this morning, I was reciting the Jagannath Ashtakam. And I was looking who is the author of this Jagannath Ashtakam. Actually, it is uh, from what I saw, it was Shankaracharya, which is an incarnation of Lord Shiva. Is an incarnation of Lord Shiva. So that's why it was so sweet and so mellow, and I loved the Jagannath Ashtakam. But his philosophies were meant to confuse a lot of worshippers who were, straying from the actual path. So while we don't take his instructions because we come from the Gaudiya Math, we are from the Brahma Sampradaya, so we don't follow his teachings as much. But that was a thing that I saw, that we actually recite the Jagannath Ashtakam that was written by him. Anyway, so there are some other things in here which we could come back to a little bit later. What I want to actually talk about is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is we come to the interesting part, is Lord Shiva. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 14, Text 24. This is a little bit of background on Lord Shiva and what he does. There's many interesting things that he does, but we'll read about this one. So Lord Shiva, he's the king of the ghosts, and king of the ghosts, Bhutnath, and he sits on the back of a bull carrier. So his carrier, just like Lord Krishna's carrier is Garuda, the bird, and Garuda is huge, immense. His wings, just his wings of Garuda, spans the entire universe. So if you can imagine. And with his wings, he flutters. I saw a little bit of Garuda in my dreams. And I saw Lord Krishna fly in Garuda. We are sort of distracting from Lord Shiva here, but I'm just trying to describe this just came spontaneously. But Lord Krishna was riding Garuda, and he was traveling faster than the speed of light. So if you can imagine one of those Star Trek movies where somebody goes by warp speed and you see the face of a person and you see light behind him, like, laser lights. It was something similar like that, but even faster than that. So Garuda really travels fast, and his wings are huge, immense, and just covers the universe. And it was a wonderful sight to see. So I'm just sharing with you today. But anyway, Lord Shiva's carrier is the bull, and he travels by the bull carrier. And at this time, he's accompanied, when he's traveling in the bull, he's accompanied by ghosts, because these ghosts are his disciples and his devotees. And he's accompanied by ghosts who follow him for their welfare. So Lord Shiva, in the purport, Lord Shiva is, or Rudra, is the king of ghosts. Ghostly characters worship Lord Shiva to be gradually guided towards the path of self-realization. So these ghosts, and I'm going to explain to you how these ghosts actually spiritually advance. It's a very interesting story. I'll give you a little bit of background. What happens is Diti, she's married to Kashyap, right? Now Kashyap and Diti is a mother of all demons. Aditi, who's a sister, is a mother of all the gods in the heavens. That's Aditi. Now, Diti is, unfortunately, she's a mother of demons. And what happens is Diti is wanting to have romantic relations with her husband. And she wants these romantic means sex life, sexual relations with her husband, but she wants it at a time which is not auspicious. And I'm just coming to the point where how these ghosts are transferred into self-realized souls. So we will talk about that a little bit later. But what has happened is Kashyap is trying to convince Diti that this is not an auspicious time to have sex, because it's going to attract some negative negative consequences. So this is how Lord Shiva is involved. So I'm going to read a little bit more about it, and you'll come to know exactly how Lord Shiva. Anyway, the conclusion of this is not to have. That's why Vaishnavas, they chant 62 rounds before they produce a child, because they don't want to end up with a demon child or a baby, because what Lord Shiva does is he transfers these ghosts into the womb of the woman who has sexual relations with a partner at an inauspicious time, and usually it is in the evenings. So it is, especially if it's an illicit sex life. So if the couple is not married and they have these relations, and Lord Shiva, who has three eyes, he looks at everything, past, present, and future. Lord Shiva has three eyes, and you might think that you go to a secret place where he won't see you, but he will see you, and you end up being pregnant or pregnating someone with a demon child, because what has happened is Lord Shiva thinks, oh, okay, let me transfer this particular ghost into the womb and give them a chance for self-realization. So what happens is these Brahmins that, there are many Brahmins in India, but these children, they don't appear to be Brahmins because their behavior and their activities are exactly like demon-like. It's because at the time of conception of the child, the parents were thinking lust, or they were not really chanting, or they were not, Vaishnavas. They were not Brahmin-like, or they were having sex at inauspicious times. So Lord Shiva is always and constantly looking for a womb for his ghost disciples and devotees. So for those Vaishnavas, it's really, really important to be very careful about this child conceiving, because you might end up with a child that will be hell on earth. So that is why we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And basically, that is why we have this relationship within a marriage. So if a Vaishnava is faced with this challenge, because all these challenges happen, and you are faced with opportunities for illicit life, or you are always challenged with lust, greed, anger, all of those seven, anarthas, all devotees are tested again and again. So if you are ever tested with that, you must say no and run the hell out of there before you produce a Ravan or a Hiranyakashipu, because Lord Shiva is traveling in his bull at that time, waiting for a womb to transfer this child. So have to be very careful. But let me continue. I've actually told you the whole story, but this is what the Srimad Bhagavatam is saying. So, and the result of this, what happened. So the Mayavadi philosophers are most worshippers of Lord Shiva, and Sripad Shankaracharya, which we just discussed about him, is considered to be the incarnation of Lord Shiva. And he is the incarnation of Lord Shiva, and for preaching godlessness to the Mayavadi philosophers. So it is in our Srimad Bhagavatam. If you want to know, it's text 3.14.24, where it actually is written in the purport that Sripad Shankaracharya is the incarnation, considered to be incarnation of Lord Shiva, and he is there to preach godlessness. In other words, no God, godlessness. That's to preach to the Mayavadi philosophers, and that is why we as Vaishnavas, we tend not to listen or read about the philosophies written by Shankaracharya. We are from the Gaudiya Math. We are Brahma. We follow the Brahma, Lord Brahma's instructions. We are the Brahma Sampradaya. So, and we follow the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, which is not godlessness. In fact, it teaches us about love for Krishna. So anyway, ghosts are bereft of a physical body. As you know, ghosts, they don't really have a proper body. They are bodiless. And so because of their grievously sinful acts, such as suicide. So this is another, if you want to know what happens to people who commit suicide. As soon as they commit suicide, they get rid of this body, obviously, but they become ghosts. And being a ghost is no picnic. So the last resort of these ghostly characters in human society is to take shelter of suicide, either material or spiritual. Actually, there are two kinds of suicides. One is material suicide, where we do something to get rid of this body because it's a material body. So that's one suicide. The second suicide is the spiritual suicide, whereby we are, as Vaishnavas, we are practicing bhakti yoga, and suddenly we do things that removes us from bhakti. In other words, we stop chanting, we stop going to the temple, we stop taking prasad, we start eating meat, we start drinking liquor, alcohol, or start drinking, intoxications of all kinds, illicit sex life, and we stop chanting and practicing. So that is known as spiritual suicide, according to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada has explained in his classes very well. So you want to commit spiritual suicide, stop becoming Lord Krishna's devotee, or not become his devotee at all. Because sometimes we are trying to preach to people, become a devotee, chant, don't drink alcohol, don't have illicit sex life, don't eat meat, gradually chant Hare Krishna, become. And we keep telling them, and do this, this is the way to do it, and years have passed and they still haven't mastered it. And there comes a point of time, and you ask them, do you really want to become a devotee, or are you really intent on committing spiritual suicide? So you at that time you have to make a choice. So there are two types of suicides: material suicide, spiritual suicide. So spiritual suicide causes loss of individual identity. Individual identity, you lose the spiritual body. So if you are endeavoring to say, go to Tulsi Maharani, then you will lose that identity. Or you are wanting to, your spiritual aspiration is to reach Lord Krishna in Vrindavan Dham, or to be like Nanda Maharaj, or to be in Dwarka. Any of those Lord Krishna's pastimes, obviously you will not achieve it. So that's a loss, because all the time you have chanted Hare Krishna, you have listened to mentors, you have even approached, you might have approached even a spiritual master, but if you choose not to become a devotee and choose to do things that are not on bhakti level, stop chanting, or take alcohol or meat or whatever it is, then you don't become a devotee, and that's just as good as a suicide, spiritual suicide. So here we are saying Mayavadi philosophers desire to lose their individuality and merge into the impersonal spiritual Brahmajyoti existence. So Lord Shiva, being very kind to these ghosts, see that although they are condemned, they get physical bodies. So he places them in the wombs of women who indulge in sexual intercourse, regardless of restrictions of time and circumstance. So women have to be very careful that they don't engage in this sexual intercourse in inauspicious times. Basically, they need to be with a husband, obviously, and because Lord Shiva is out there, he's looking for a womb for his ghosts. So you might end up having a ghost. So you've got to be very, very careful. So Kashyap was trying to explain this to Diti. So he wanted to impress this fact upon Diti, so she might wait for a while. So he said, just wait. This is not the time. So he said, Lord Shiva's body is reddish and he is unstained. He is covered with ashes. His hair is dusty from the whirlwind dust of burning crematorium. He's the younger brother of your husband. So, and he sees with 3 eyes. So he's telling this to Diti, that Lord Shiva is my younger brother. The reason why he's saying his younger brother, because Diti is the sister of Parvati, who's that of Sati, who is the wife of Lord Shiva. So it is considered that if the sister is married, the husband will be considered to be a younger brother. So here Kashyap is saying that he's a younger brother of mine, and he's also explaining to Diti he has 3 eyes. So it is explained in this purport here. It says Lord Shiva is not an ordinary living entity, nor is he in the category of Vishnu, the supreme personality of Godhead. He is far more powerful than any living entity up to the standard of Brahma. Yet he is not on equal level with Vishnu. See, since he is almost like Lord Vishnu, Shiva can see past, present, and future. One of his eyes is like the sun, another is like the moon, and the third eye between his eyebrows is like the fire. And with the third eye, he can generate fire from his middle eye and is able to vanquish any powerful living entity, including Lord Brahma. Wow. Yet he does not live in a pompously in a nice house, etc. He lives out under the tree. Actually, he doesn't have a nice house. He doesn't possess any material properties. He lives mostly in the crematorium. That's where he lives. And that's where the dead bodies are burnt. And the whirlwind dust of the crematorium is his bodily dress. He's unstained by material contamination. He's actually very renounced. And Kashyap took him as his younger brother because the younger sister of Diti, Kashyap's wife, was married to Lord Shiva. The husband of one's sister is considered one's brother. So by that social relationship, Lord Shiva happened to be the younger brother of Kashyap. So Kashyap is a Muni, obviously. Kashyap Muni warned his wife that because Lord Shiva could see the sex indulgence, the time was not appropriate. Diti might argue that they would enjoy sex life in a private place, but Kashyap reminded her that Lord Shiva had three eyes and called the sun, moon, and fire, and one cannot escape the vigilance any more than one can escape Vishnu. So, although seen by the police, a criminal sometimes not immediately punished, but the police wait for the proper time to apprehend him. The forbidden time for sexual intercourse would be noted by Lord Shiva, and Diti would meet with the proper punishment by giving birth to a child of a ghostly character or godless impersonalist. So Kashyap foresaw this, and he warned his wife Diti, don't do it now. You are going to get a ghost, or you're going to get a child who will be basically hell on earth, and be a demon child. So that is why, if you want to know why the Vaishnavas chant and they, when they want to procreate or produce a child, they do it at an appropriate time when the timing is right, because Lord Shiva is watching. Lord Shiva is watching people have sexual intercourse because he's trying to look for a womb for his ghost followers. So you don't want to end up being mother like a Ravan or something, or a father of a Ravan. So Lord Shiva regards no one as his relative, yet there is no one who is not connected with him. He does not regard anyone as very favorable or abominable, but we respectfully worship the remnants of his foodstuff. We vow to accept what is rejected by him. So Kashyap informed his wife that because Lord Shiva happened to be his brother-in-law, that should not encourage her to in her offense towards him. Kashyap warned her that actually Lord Shiva is not connected with anyone, nor is anyone his enemy. Since he is one of the three controllers of the universal affairs, he is equal to everyone. His greatness is incomparable because he is a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's what he is. He's a great devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when we worship Lord Shiva, we get the benefit and the benediction that we may be able to be a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead also. So it is said that among all the devotees of Personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva is the greatest. Thus, the remnants of foodstuff left by him are accepted by other devotees as Mahaprasad, or great spiritual foodstuff. So when I offer my Krishna here, I offer to Lord Shiva, and then I eat that. I eat that all the time. That's my normal routine, how I offer my prasad on my altar. And it is written here in this purport here by Srila Prabhupada that that's what we should do if we want Mahaprasad and we want to be a Vaishnava. And we also have to remember Lord Shiva with his three eyes is always watching us. So we have to be very careful of our behavior and our actions. Anyway, so the remnants of foodstuff offered to Lord Krishna are called prasada. But when the same prasada is eaten by a great devotee like Lord Shiva, it is called Mahaprasad. Lord Shiva is so great that he does not care for material prosperity for which every one of us is so eager. Parvati, who is the powerful material nature personified, is under his full control as his wife. Yet he does not use her even to build a residential house. He prefers to remain without shelter, and his great wife also agrees to live with him humbly. People in general worship goddess Durga, the wife of Lord Shiva, for material prosperity. But Lord Shiva engages her in service without material desires. So they have the ability to give you all opulence. In fact, it is known that Lord Shiva's devotees are very opulent. They have a lot of money, and Lord Krishna's devotees don't as much, not as much. But Lord Shiva, he encourages his own wife to be without any material desires. Why? Because they are renounced. He simply advises his great wife that of all kinds of worship, the worship of Vishnu is the highest, and greater than that is the worship of a great devotee or anything in relation with Vishnu. So although no one in the material world is equal to or greater than Lord Shiva, and although his impeachable character is followed by great souls to dismantle mass of nations, he nevertheless remains as if a devil to give salvation to all devotees of the Lord. So this is a little bit interesting. Lord Shiva has uncivilized devilish characteristics, but they are never abominable because he teaches the sincere devotees of the Lord how to practice detachment from material enjoyment. Detachment. He is called Mahadev, or the greatest of all demigods, and no one is equal to or greater than him in the material world. He is almost equal with Lord Vishnu, although he always associates with Maya. Maya Devi is Durga, goddess Durga or Parvati. He associates with her all the time, Maya, but he is above the reactionary stage. It doesn't touch him, of the three modes of material nature. And although he is in charge of devilish characters in the mode of ignorance, he is not affected by such association. So unfortunate foolish persons, not knowing that he is engaged in his own self, laugh at him. Such foolish persons engage in maintaining the body which is eatable by dogs with dresses, ornaments, garlands, and ointments. So in the purport, it is explained, Lord Shiva never accepts any luxurious dress, garland, ornament, or ointment. Actually, he just accepts water and bell leaves. That's all he accepts. So, but those who are addicted to the decoration of the body, which is finally eatable by dogs, very luxuriously maintain it as the self. Such persons do not understand Lord Shiva, but they approach him for luxurious material comforts. That's true. There was a time when I was his devotee, I used to ask for all sorts of material comforts. In the end, I asked for protection and I asked for bhakti, Lord Krishna. And I received that benediction, and I'm very happy about it. I'm very fortunate, and I hope that I don't commit spiritual suicide at any point of my life or lives, that I always will remain a devotee of Lord Krishna. That is the true prayer, because a Vaishnava is always there. Only a Vaishnava or devotee of Lord Krishna only has one fear, that they might forget Krishna, or they might lose their bhakti. And so the rule is always never forget Krishna, always remember Krishna. And always pray to great personalities like Lord Shiva to help you in your spiritual life, so that you may never fall and never become, never commit spiritual suicide, or beget some demon in the womb or something like that. So it is a joke, but it is true. And this is what happens to Diti and Kashyap right now. So just look at the time. Okay, so sometimes the so-called devotees of Lord Shiva imitate him by using poisonous intoxicants. Lord Shiva once swallowed an ocean of poison, and thus his throat became blue. That is during the Sagar Manthan, the churning of the ocean. And after you churn something, all the poison comes out. And even one drop of that poison was going to destroy the entire creation or the universe. So Lord Shiva decided to swallow the entire poison and keep it and hold it in his throat. So his throat became blue. And so his followers, his devotees, they think that they can take intoxications or poisons like Lord Shiva, but that's not the correct way of worshipping Lord Shiva. As the imitation Shivas try to follow him by indulging in poisons, and thus they are ruined. The real purpose of Lord Shiva is to serve the soul of the soul, Lord Krishna. That's what his main function is, to serve Lord Krishna. Give chance to all the lowly souls and conditioned souls opportunity to advance spiritually. So he desires that all luxurious articles such as nice garments, garlands, ornaments, cosmetics be given to Lord Krishna, only because Krishna is the real enjoyer. So I do a little bit of that on my part. What I do is whenever I buy a sari or anything, I offer it on my altar to Krishna, and then I wear it. So this particular sari that I'm wearing actually was given to me in Gopinath's gift shop. So this is Gopinath's gift shop sari, but I offered it to Krishna before I wore it. Because that's what Lord Shiva is teaching us. We offer everything to Lord Krishna because he's the real enjoyer. So he refuses to accept such luxurious items himself because they are only meant for Krishna. However, since they do not know this purpose for Lord Krishna, foolish persons either laugh at him or profitlessly try to imitate him. So demigods like Brahma also follow religious rites observed by him. He is the controller of the material energy, which causes the great creation of the material world. He is great, and therefore his devilish characteristics are simply imitation. So Lord Shiva is a husband of Durga, the controller of the material energy. Durga is personified material energy, and Lord Shiva, being her husband, is the controller of material energy. He is also the incarnation of the mode of ignorance, and one of the three deities representing the Supreme Lord. As his representative, Lord Shiva is identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is very great, and his renunciation of all material enjoyment is an ideal example of how one should be materially unattached. One should therefore follow in his footsteps and be unattached to matter, not imitate uncommon acts like drinking poison. So Maitreya here, Diti was thus informed by her husband, but she was pressed by Cupid for a sexual satisfaction, so she could not control her desires. So she caught hold of the clothing of the great Brahmin sage, her husband Kashyap, just like a shameless public prostitute. So I don't need to explain, but she tried to persuade. She didn't want to listen to reason and grabbed the cloth and tried to convince Kashyap Muni to break the rules and relate with her sexually. So, understanding his wife's purpose, he was thus obliged to perform the forbidden act. So, the forbidden act, that's what it is, that you have sexual relations at an unusual, inauspicious time when you're not supposed to, and then disaster after that. So, we're going to find out what happens. So thus, after offering his obeisances unto worshipful fate, he lay with her in a secluded place. So he agreed with his wives. So it appears from the talks of Kashyap with his wife that he was a worshipper of Lord Shiva. And although he knew that Lord Shiva would not be pleased with him for such a forbidden act, let's see how much we have time. We've got 8:22. Lord Shiva would not be pleased with such a forbidden act. He was thus obliged to act by his wife's desire and thus offered his obeisances unto fate. He knew that the child born of such untimely sexual intercourse would certainly not be a good child, but could not protect himself because he was too obligated to his wife. So in a similar case, Haridas Thakur, he was tempted by the public prostitutes at dead midnight. And he avoided this allurement because of the perfection of Krishna consciousness. So that was the difference. You've got to be, that's the difference of being a devotee of Lord Shiva and a devotee of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna's devotee is such that they can avoid Maya herself. But Lord Shiva's devotee, like Syamapriya, would give in. That's the difference. And so Haridas Thakur, he was able to avoid that with the prostitute, and he ended up actually, who was my Devi herself, and ended up initiating her. So he avoided, he didn't break the four regulative principles. That's what happened. Anyway, so Kashyap Muni, that is the difference between a Krishna conscious person and others. So Haridas Thakur was greater than Kashyap Muni here. Kashyap Muni was greatly learned and enlightened, but he knew all the rules and regulations of the system of light, yet he failed to protect himself from the attack of sex desire. So Thakur Haridas was not born of a Brahmin family, nor was he himself a Brahmin, yet he could protect himself from such an attack due to his being Krishna conscious. Haridas Thakur used to chant the holy name of the Lord 300,000 times daily. 300,000 times daily. So if you are talking to Krishna, actually it protects us, because when we respect, if we are initiated, we say, well, okay, so we've taken a vow and of the four regulative principles, and I cannot practice the illicit sex life or whatever it is, I cannot eat meat. Then you are protected, because that's Krishna consciousness. So you can even be greater than Kashyap Muni. You can scream at the top of your lungs that you are a devotee and you don't have illicit sex life, and you will not do it. So Krishna will protect you at such time. So thereafter, the Brahmin took his bath in the water, controlled his speech by practicing trance, meditating on the eternal effluence by chanting the holy Gayatri hymns within his mouth. So he did all that stuff. And then the son of the Bharata family, Diti, after this went near to her husband. Her face lowered because of her faulty action, so she regretted after that. So she spoke as follows. She was actually ashamed after doing this abominable action, and she became down-faced, and he came to her senses after doing this with her husband. Such sexual intercourse is condemned as prostitution. In other words, sex life with one's wife is equal to prostitution if regulations are not followed properly. Prostitution. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I'm reading about Lord Shiva, what he does. So the beautiful Diti said, my dear Brahman, kindly see that my embryo is not killed by Lord Shiva, the Lord of all living entities, because of the great offense I have committed against him. So Diti was conscious of her offense and was anxious to be excused by Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva has two popular names, Rudra and Ashutosh. He is very prone to anger as well as quickly pacified. And Diti knew because of his being quickly angered, he might spoil pregnancy, so she had unlawfully achieved this pregnancy. But because he was also Ashutosh, he implored her Brahmin husband to help her pacify Lord Shiva, for her husband was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. In other words, Lord Shiva might be angry with Diti because she obliged her husband to transgress the law, break the law, but he would not refuse her husband's prayer because he's Ashutosh. So therefore, the application of for excuse was submitted through her husband. She prayed to Lord Shiva as follows. Let me offer my obeisances unto the angry Lord Shiva, who is simultaneously the very ferocious great demigods and the fulfiller of all material desires. He is all auspicious and forgiving, but his anger can immediately move him to chastise. Let him be pleased with us, since he is my brother-in-law, the husband of my sister Sati. He is also a worshipable Lord of all women. He is the personality of all opulences, and show mercy towards women who are excused even by the uncivilized hunters. Since Lord Shiva is himself associated with women, he knows very well their defective nature, and he might not take seriously Diti's unavoidable offense, which occurred due to her faulty nature. So she was begging for mercy from Lord Shiva after that. So the great sage Kashyap thus addressed his wife, who was trembling because of fear that her husband was offended. She understood that he had been dissuaded from his duties of offering evening prayers, yet she desired the welfare of her children going to be born. So the learned Kashyap said, because of your minds being polluted, because of your defilement of the particular time, because of your negligence of my directions, and because of your apathetic to the demigods, everything was inauspicious. So Kashyap told his wife everything was inauspicious. So she's going to have Rakshasas. She's going to have two Rakshasas. So I'm just going to, because we are approaching 8:30 very quickly, so I'm just going to give you the conclusion. Okay, so she was blessed with two children. And these two children, the embryos, the one was Hiranyaksh and the other one was Hiranyakashipu. Now, Hiranyaksh and Hiranyakashipu in the previous life were Jay and Vijay, who are the doorkeepers of Lord Vishnu. What had happened was the four Sanat Kumars, the little children, they tried to enter Lord Vishnu's abode, and the guards stop them because they look like children, and but they are great sages. They're just children, and they're renounced. So they cursed Jay and Vijay to come down to planet Earth, fall down. So they begged for mercy, but Lord Vishnu came and said, yes, my guards have offended you, and therefore they must go down. But I will go and deliver them, and they will be back to the heavenly mode in no time. So Jay and Vijay became Hiranyaksh and Hiranyakashipu. They were transferred to the womb of Diti via the semen of Kashyap. So it is actually very interesting that the life forms, they come via the semen. So these entities, entities are enter the womb through the semen. And Jay and Vijay did that. So, but Lord Krishna came and basically killed, or you all know that, he killed Hiranyaksh in the form of boar, and he killed Hiranyakashipu in the form of Lord Nrsimhadev. So Diti was very, when she came to know that her children are going to be demons like this, she was very, very depressed, and she was very afraid, very scared. She was trembling, and therefore she offered further prayers. So the further prayers that she offered, she was told, this is what she was told: "O haughty one, you will have two contemptuous sons born out of your condemned womb." And these were transferred to her womb by Lord Shiva. They were demons. Lord Shiva is always looking for a womb for these demons who are worshippers of Lord Shiva. So, unlucky woman, they will cause lamentation to all the three worlds. She was basically being chastised, and they will kill poor, faultless living entities, to torture women, and enrage the great souls. And at that time, the Lord of the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the well-wisher of all living entities, will descend and kill them, just as Indra smashes mountains with his thunderbolts. So Diti said, "It is very good that my sons will be magnanimously killed by the arms of Personality of Godhead with his Sudarshan weapon. Oh, my husband, may they never be killed by the wrath of the Brahmin devotees." So she was actually quite happy because she wanted her children to be delivered by the Lord. So it says here, if someone is killed by the will of the Lord and is thus fortunate enough to see the forms of the Lord, that is sufficient for his liberation. Such good fortune is not achieved even by great sages. A person who is condemned by a Brahman or is always fearful of other living entities is not favored either by those who are already in hell or those in species in which he is born. So suppose we gave birth to somebody like Hiranyakashipu, there is no chance that Lord Krishna is going to come and deliver him and liberate him. So probably end up in hell. So there's no way, it's not a good idea to give birth to a demon in this day and age, because Lord Krishna is not going to come and highlight him. So anyway, this goes on a little bit further. He said, but because of your lamentation, penitence, and proper deliberation, and because of your unflinching faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and your adoration of Lord Shiva and me, one of the sons of your son, Hiranyakashipu, so the son of Hiranyakashipu is Prahlad Maharaj. So Prahlad will be an approved devotee of the Lord, and his fame will be broadcast equally with that of the Personality of Godhead. So something good came out of it, even though her sons were demons and destroyed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But one of the son of Hiranyakashipu ended up being Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was the incredible devotee of Lord Krishna, Lord Hari, Lord Vishnu. So he was not only he saved, he was what is his fame? His fame, just like we talk about Prahlad Maharaj even now as one of the great Vaishnavas. And whenever we need protection, we sing the Syamapriya and we sing Lord Prahlad Maharaja's name simultaneously for his protection, because Prahlad Maharaj is the giver of protection of Lord Nrsimhadev. So if you want Lord Nrsimhadev's protection, it is very important to get the blessings of Prahlad Maharaj. Also, is usually overlooked. We tend to overlook that, but actually having the blessings of Prahlad Maharaj will give us 100% protection by Lord Nrsimhadev. And so Lord Prahlad Maharaj is the son of Hiranyakashipu. So here Aditi was given that benediction, and because of Prahlad Maharaj, Lord Krishna promised that he will never kill any of the demons. So after Prahlad Maharaj came, the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, the Lord Krishna has promised he will never kill the demons, lineage or the family of Prahlad Maharaj, which is really interesting. So it says, in order to follow in his footsteps, saintly persons will try to emulate his character by practicing freedom from animosity, just as purifying processes rectify gold of inferior quality. So it says, yoga practice is the process of purifying one's existence. Identity is based mainly on self-control. Without self-control, one cannot practice freedom from animosity. In that conditional state, every living being is envious of other living beings, or in a liberated state, there's an absence of animosity. Prahlad Maharaj was tortured by his father in so many ways. Yet after the death of his father, he prayed for his father's liberation. And he prayed for the liberation by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He did not ask any benediction that he might have asked, but he prayed that his ascetic father might be liberated. So he never cursed any of the persons who engaged in torturing him at the instigation of his father. So everyone will be pleased with him. That's what Kashyap is telling Diti. Everybody will be pleased with Prahlad Maharaj, because the personality of Godhead, the supreme controller of the universe, is always satisfied with a devotee who does not wish for anything beyond him. Moving on, the topmost devotee of the Lord will have expanded intelligence. He will be the topmost devotee of the Lord, and he will have expanded intelligence and expanded influence, and will be the greatest of the great souls. Due to mature devotional service, he will certainly be situated in transcendental ecstasy and will enter the spiritual sky after quitting the material body. So that was what Lord Shiva does. He actually impregnates ladies who have sex at an inauspicious time with his ghosts and goblins. I could talk a little bit more. Let me see if I have any time about any further pastimes of Lord Shiva. Anyway, I will talk in general. There's a lot of stories in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is really interesting, and which includes Lord Shiva, as we always come across his pastimes. But there was a time when Lord Shiva wanted to see the rasa dance, and so no one was allowed to enter the rasa dance unless they're in a female form. So Lord Shiva decided to enter the rasa dance as a girl. So he turned into a gopi. That's what Narad Muni also did. Narad Muni also wanted to see the rasa dance of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan when he was dancing with the gopis. So Narad Muni also did the same thing. He turned into a girl. He became Naradi. And Lord Krishna found Narad Muni and said, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "I'm here to see the rasa dance." And so Lord Krishna put him to task straight away. He said, "Why don't you go and write the Pancharatra?" So the rules that we follow in deity worship is actually written by Narad Muni. He goes away to, there's a kund in Govardhan. When you go to Govardhan, you will see this kund where Narad Muni wrote the Pancharatra. Pancharatrika is the tradition, the rules that we follow. It's written in a book. All the rules and regulations are compiled and written by Narad Muni. And Lord Shiva also, he wanted to see the Rasa dance, so he became a girl and he became Gopishwara. So that's he is known as Gopishwara Mahadev. And Gopishwara Mahadev, he guards the entrance of the four directions of the of Vrindavan Dham, where Lord Krishna is performing his Rasa dance. So whenever we go to do the parikrama, we first go to get blessings from Gopeshwara Mahadev. I've been there with Gurudev in his parikrama, and it was a very special place to go to, and obviously to seek his blessings, because you never know what your spiritual body is going to be, and if you are fortunate enough to be, a gopi, everybody wants to be a gopi or a gopa. But if you're fortunate, you might be able to see the Rasa dance of Lord Krishna or participate in it even. I had no such desire, except that all I wanted to do was just know the pastimes of Lord Krishna and Radharani, which I prayed for. And there's a pilu tree there. Pilu tree is a tree that saw all the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And all the pastimes of Radha. So we can always, if you want to know the pastimes or know a little bit more about Lord Krishna and Radharani, pray to the Pilu tree. So that was another pastime of Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva, where he becomes a gopi, he becomes a girl. Actually, I did have such a similar experience with Lord Shiva, because I used to worship, and so in my dream, if you can call it that, not exactly a dream, but he said, Lord Shiva, he says that of himself, he says, oh, Lord Shiva is a girl. And I was like, what did he just say? That's really a big offense to Lord Shiva, but really it was what he was trying to say is he's also a Gopishwara Mahadev. He turned into a girl. So, but I learned about it later, after so many years. So when he actually had said that I wasn't even a devotee of Lord Krishna, I was learning to be a devotee, was just chanting, that's it. Didn't know anything about Krishna and Radharani, so my desire was always to know about, Radha and Rani and the stories of Radharani and Lord Krishna. So another pastime is when Lord Shiva wants to go and see baby Krishna. There's a baby Krishna right behind me. Anyway, Lord Shiva wants to go and darshan Lord Krishna, because he's a perfect child. He's this supreme personality of God, and everybody wants to see him in his childhood baby pastimes. So Mother Yashoda was inside with the baby, and he dressed up as a Brahmin to go and see the baby, Lord Krishna, and knocked on the door and said to Mother Yashoda when she opened the door, may I, have darshan of your child. But what happened is that there were so many demons attacking baby Krishna, Putna and other demons. So Mother Yashoda was very hesitant to now show her child. She was actually very scared. She thought this is just another demon, dressed up as a Brahmin, and it's about to hit, harm or kill my child. So she was very, very scared, and she, pulled Krishna away. Must not touch my child. Must not darshan my child. And she wouldn't let Lord Shiva. She wouldn't let Lord Shiva see. And so Lord Shiva was extremely disheartened, and Lord Shiva then tearfully, with tears in his eyes, he expressed his prayers to Lord Krishna in his heart. So then Lord Krishna then gave him darshan in another way, which was unbeknown to Mother Yashoda. So these are some very interesting pastimes of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva also gave a lot of boons and benedictions to Ravan. Ravan had actually gone to the Himalayas where Lord Shiva was residing to actually challenge him. And he had actually gone to grab his wife, because somebody had told Ravan that the most beautiful lady resides over there. So he had gone after Durga Devi, Parvati. So she was cursed. She cursed him, She cursed him, say that your death will be caused by a woman, because of a woman. So because he dared to take her away. So she was very angry. And Lord Shiva also, he was sitting there on the mountain, Kailash, and Ravan was trying to express his strength by lifting Kailash, the mountain. So while he was, lifting the Kailash mountain, Parvati got very angry or very agitated. And so she said to Lord Shiva, do something. And so Lord Shiva with his toe just pressed down on the Mount Kailash like that with his toe. And all of Ravan's 10 hands or whatever, 10 pairs of hands were stuck underneath the mountain. And just with his toe. So there was another curse, like along the way when Ravan was on his way to the mountains, Kailash, he had met with Nandi, the bull, the carrier, and Nandi also gave him this curse. And said because he was making a fun of Nandi's looks. You're a bull, you don't look good. So Nandi said to him, "You are going to be, the cause of your death will be by animals." And so what had happened was Hanuman was like a looked like he's a monkey god, looks like a monkey, and there were a whole bunch of monkeys that was causing the destruction of Ravan. So Ravan picked up a lot of curses along the way. So while Ravan's hands were stuck underneath the mountain with Lord Shiva's toe pressing down on the mountain, then that's when Ravan decided, okay, well, it's not a good idea to be enemies with Lord Shiva, and definitely not a good idea to go after his wife. So that's when Ravan decided to make friends with Lord Shiva by reciting these amazing prayers, which is known as the I think it's the Shiv Tandava, something like that. It's the anyway. It was composed by Ravan, and so because of that, Lord Shiva became very easily pleased because he's Ashutosh. So because he was pleased, he let Ravan go, obviously, but he also gave him the benediction of his trident, which is the Trishul. Not there, he didn't give it to him and then didn't have it himself, but he was able to empower him with the Trishul whenever he needed it. So Ravan came away with blessings of Lord Shiva, because that's what he does. Lord Shiva is the god of all the demons. And so for those of us who are in the mode of ignorance or one material desires, that's why Lord Shiva has got so many devotees, because there are more demons and more ghosts than there are Vaishnavas. So anyway, but there's room for advancement, for spiritual progress, and we must always endeavor to please Lord Shiva by offering him Lord Krishna's prasadam. And we offer our prayers and always ask for blessings so that we can be spiritually advanced. And when we do that, then obviously he will take us on a great ride where you will experience a lot of material detachments. It is also said in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, when Narad Muni had actually gone to see who was the greatest devotee of Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna. So he thought Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee. But Lord Shiva said, no, I'm not the greatest devotee. I give people all these benedictions to become spiritually advanced. And what happens is they undergo all these terrible experiences where they have to materially detach. In other words, give up this, give up that, one by one. And it's excruciating. It is unbearable for one to lose all material attachments. For example, a beloved like a husband or a wife or a child or the bank balance or their material opulences, these are all attachments. So by the blessings of Lord Shiva, you have to give up all of them. It's taken away from you. Basically, you become homeless, loveless, or whatever it is. You become detached. And so a lot of devotees are unable to withstand this kind of thing. So then they end up saying, well, we never really wanted this kind of blessing. So Lord Shiva is telling Naramuni, I'm not really the best of devotees, because with the blessings I get lots of complaints that my blessings are not very good, because people will be under excruciating pain when they give up material detachments and then they become spiritually realized. So he was trying to downplay his glories, but basically Lord Shiva is a great devotee, and he is one of the best of his Mahadev, and he can actually, and he's a Mahavaishnav, so he can give us the benediction of spiritual advancement. So that was Lord Shiva to Narad Muni. And he, referred Narad Muni to a higher power. After that, he said, "I'm not." And anyway, in the end, it was the conclusion of Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which is also a very dear literature that I love to read a lot. This is about Gopakumar and Narad Muni. They've tried to find out who's the best devotee, and the conclusion was that the gopis are the best devotees of Lord Krishna. So I'm going to have to conclude over here because we are already nearing the end of our class. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you next Friday. So Hare Krishna. Thank you for listening. Good evening.